It's a huge day in America, and we are here to take you away from that and talk to you about recent Twins news. There's some Silver Slugger stuff, some Gold Glove stuff, and a whole bunch of other fun stuff that we're going to get to. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hi there. It is Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. And thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And, of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Dave Brown, at Answer Dave Brown on the tweets. Been writing about ball since the summer of Sosa and McGuire, in the BBWAA since 2012, and a Hall of Fame voter for the second time around as we talk about voting. Coming up. Hey, topical. Hey, Dave, how we doing?
We're good. I'm ready to vote. I'm a no on Ben Zobrist. I'll give you that right now.
Okay. Well, it's nice to have that as a treat as we're in voting season for a lot of things, but you have most likely come here to escape from the wall-to-wall coverage of that, and for that, we thank you. Always be active in the comments. 5-star reviews are huge on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can leave a review. If you leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. In fact, Dave, I have an entire box of cards here.
Oh.
And so here's a fun Byron Buxton one that says Sweet Shades. I'm going to do this. If someone leaves us proof of a 5-star review and that they're subscribed on YouTube, I will send them a random card from my giveaway box.
What if I do that?
What's that?
Am I eligible?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be strange at all if you won. But again, yeah. So send me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. DMs are open. Proof that you subscribe on YouTube and have left us a 5-star review, and I'll send you a card like that Buxton one. In fact, the first person who shows me will get that Buxton card. It's a pretty cool card.
You're like your own Elon Musk giving people sweepstakes for voting. The judge said it was legal, so go ahead.
I still don't understand how that is.
I don't know.
Is legal, but you know it is legal. Starting your football season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets as long as you win with that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Check out that app. Highly recommended. Dave, lots of news floating around, sort of like your head next to the milk jug, about Twins, this and that and the other thing. Carlos Santana does not win a Fielding Bible first base Gold Glove award, but he wins the one that matters, and I think we all kind of assumed that he would, and so to have that validated was pretty cool. Good for Carlos at this age. He did say, or his agent relayed through John Paul Morosi that he'd like to play for 3 or 4 more years. I don't know about that one, but good for him for feeling good and playing like he did this year defensively.
I think that agent message was like a secret message. Please, I'd like a 2-year deal so I don't have to do this every year.
Yeah.
Where I sell myself every year, the offseason. Like I just won a Gold Glove. I've been around forever. I had my best offensive season in like 5 years. Can I have a 2-year contract? Please.
And I'd like to rent instead of Airbnb in the next city I'm in.
You know, he still has a house in Kansas City. I learned this year. He was late to actually. That was a weird series because he got sick, so we were told, and he didn't play. And you remember that? And I found out that he still has a house in Kansas City, and I don't know. I don't know that was like around the time the Twins started to fall apart. So I wonder if there's some kind of relation to that.
I love the you'll never believe what former players of a team end up in that city to stay. Justin Morneau landing in Minnesota. I mean, he's from Canada. He's a farmer now. and best friends with Joe Mauer. I mean, that makes sense, right? But like Kevin Tapani being here is, I don't know if that would be crazy surprising, but certainly not where you would have expected him to spend his post-playing days. And Scott Leius, who played third base for the 91 team and was a frequent customer of mine.
An acquaintance of yours, a customer.
Yes, and definitely talk to him for a few minutes, and you have no question that he's from Yonkers, because he's got a very gruff.
I'd love to have a conversation with Scott Leius just to.
I bet I could get him on here. He's such a good dude.
You got to find Scott Leius.
My origin story with him was, and then since we're doing an episode of just kind of mishmash, I don't feel bad for telling it, but he came into my UPS store, and I said, "Oh, Scott Leius, I'm a huge fan," and he looked at me kind of like. And you know me growing up as a Twins fan, I'm fans of guys that are not, they're a little more obscure. But he looks at me kind of cross-eyed, like, okay. I said, no, I'm serious. You caught, and then it was like one of the craziest outs in the first inning of Scott Erickson's no-hitter in 1994, and this was like 2005 or 2006 when I met him. And his eyes get real narrow, and he goes, "Billy Spies." And I'm like, yep. And then from that moment on, he knew I wasn't filling him full of, hot air. And so he was always really cool with me because, people will say, "Oh, I'm a big fan," and then they not know anything about you.
Right.
Which I never wanted to be that kind of guy. But yeah, so from that moment on, we were just like thick as thieves. He'd come in and we'd talk about ball, talk about his son named Mickey, who I think is probably named after Mickey Mantle, who was a good young player for a while there. And yeah, I love those weird connections where it's players ending up in cities after their career that you would have never imagined. Now, that doesn't apply to Santana necessarily, but I would not have thought he still had a home in Kansas City.
I wanted to talk to, when I found out that he was sick that day, but he still had a home in Kansas City. It was like, I have a whole line of questioning now for Carlos Santana that I didn't have before. But he didn't really surface the whole weekend against the Royals. So I don't know if there was a party and he got some food poisoning. It was something like that. I think he just got ill from, I don't want to say partying too much, because that has a bad connotation, but I think he had some bad luck. And Kansas City wouldn't be it's a lovely city to raise a family. I mean, I kind of worry about the weather conditions sometimes, because there's some extremes, especially in the summer. It can get really hot, and there could be some dangerous storms and tornadoes and flooding and that kind of thing. So there's a downside to it. But Santana, getting back to what we're talking about, he didn't win the Fielding Bible Award, but they don't divide the awards for the Fielding Bible by league, I don't believe. I think that's
he's also an Old Testament guy, and I think they go New Testament.
Oh my God! Right. So if there's a field Torah out there, or something like that, if something that's all in Hebrew, then maybe Santana is
downright apocryphal this season.
Right.
You said "Oh my G," and I was like, "Hey, that works too."
So yeah, he wasn't. I think that a couple of guys in the National League actually probably did have better statistical seasons than him, but he got the American League Award. I was kind of worried that Mountcastle would win again, and it wasn't that. Depending on where you looked, it wasn't that far off as far as who was better. But I wouldn't be against them bringing him back, but considering, and we'll get into this later, the weird state of the Twins payroll. They want to keep the same payroll, which is not really going to work with inflation and the way things go, and the way things appear to be going is with free agency around the league. I think people are going to spend money.
Lopez's contract. You can't just stand still.
No. But if they do plan to stand still, that means they're taking a step backward, and that means they're not going to give even like a 1-year deal to Santana. That's sort of what Dan Hayes was saying in his story. That's what I was inferring from it, that expect some major changes, and we'll talk about that maybe in another episode, some of those possible changes. But I don't know that I would expect Carlos Santana to come back on a 2-year deal and a 1-year deal. I think they're going to try and cheap out there, and that's what fourth place gets you.
Was Christian Walker the Fielding Bible winner?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I mean, that makes sense. The state of first baseman and free agency is also interesting because there'll be a few teams looking. First base is tricky because teams either have their guy or they don't want to spend a lot of money. But Christian Walker will probably be at the top of a lot of shopping lists. There's no, Freddie Freeman available or anything like that.
Right.
Paul Goldschmidt's certainly a good player, could be a good player, but we'll see what happens there too. But Santana may wait to sign if he's waiting to see how those markets shake out, because teams that miss out on them could be interested in him. With that said, anybody who swoops in with a 2-year deal or a 1-year and a mutual option with a nice buyout probably has a good chance to get him. All the more reason to suspect that he won't be a Twin next year.
Well, he was a later, not a late arrival to spring training, but he was definitely on time. But he's one of those guys last year that I think had to wait for a while to get his picture taken with the Pepsi machine, which is the Twins' official way of saying that you've signed.
Nice.
So, he might be a guy that has to wait again, and that's always that's another reason why probably he wants to get a 2-year deal, so he doesn't have to wait until like February 20th to sign.
Yeah, this year or next year for that matter. Let's do this.
Yes.
Let's take our first break. When we come back, we've got some Silver Slugger talk, some options declined talk, some outrights, and a few other things as far as loose ends before we get you out of here. But like I said, quick break. It's the trade deadline for the NFL as we're recording this, coming up in a few hours. And so FanDuel wants you to know that you can tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Sorry, I read that as FanDuel America, and I'm like, wow, they must have FanDuel Canada, FanDuel Sri Lanka, that sort of thing. No, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. So bet against the Panthers. Actually, that wouldn't have worked out this last weekend. They got a coach fired. So don't bet against the Panthers necessarily. It's not as easy as maybe I made it sound. But if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's right. That's the FanDuel app or FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Find a layup out there for $5 and then free play, which sounds like a whole lot of fun to me. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave, Silver Slugger season is among us. I always thought it was funny. I was sitting in the chair, putting my little man to sleep, because I'm kind of the closer in that regard. It was like, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock Sunday night. And I'm flipping between the Vikings game and Twitter, and I see, Carlos Santana won the Gold Glove. And it's like, why is MLB announcing Gold Gloves at 9 p.m. Eastern on a Sunday? But nevertheless, around that same time, Silver Slugger, sorry, not Gold Glove, Silver. We're dropping down to Silver Sluggers. Nominees came out, as you might expect, not flush with Twins players just because of injuries and all different reasons. But Santana, a nominee at first base, and then Willie Castro. I wouldn't say he has a really good chance, but he's the utility nominee for the Twins next to Jordan Westberg and Josh Smith. Now, Santana has a tough field to compete with at first base. It's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who I think is the runaway favorite, and then Josh Naylor, who, for all the things he did or didn't do well, hit the ball with more power than Santana did. So I think Santana is probably pretty safely the number 3 horse in that race. And so it's not likely that Santana will bring home a second piece of hardware, but still cool to see him getting a subtle nod to having a really nice year at age 38.
This is one of those things, the Silver Slugger Award, that I can't wrap my head around it, because defense, it's a little more subjective for a couple of reasons. One, even the objective way of measuring defense, not all the sources can agree on it. So like if you look at Baseball Prospectus, you look at Fangraphs, you look at the MLB site, you look at Fielding Bible, you might get 4 different answers about who the best defensive player is. That's kind of rare, but still, you might get a couple.
Yeah.
Silver Slugger, to me, you just kind of look at we already have context-based statistics, WRC Cola Plus and
Mhm.
OPS Plus and all that, and Medicare Plus, and I think you can kind of figure out, well, who in context who had the best stat line. So this is kind of just a way to squeeze a little more blood out of the turnip. Who should be the Silver Slugger Award? You can kind of look at the stats and you can figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know why people would like subject that to a vote on top of it. It's just so I just kind of sort of mentally throw it out. So I figure Vlad Guerrero's got this locked up.
And people also say, like, when you see Gold Glove finalists, it's, well, no, somebody won the Gold Glove, and they're just adding two names to kind of give people hope. And
Right.
that's, maybe something that's happening here with Santana.
We're not
But
supposed to know that. That's behind the curtain Wizard of Oz stuff. So there's too much media coverage. That's the answer.
yeah, blame the media. Okay. Yeah. So, and then Willie Castro getting a nod to at utility, kind of a weird timing there, just because Willie's, scuffles in the second half are fresh in our mind, and so it's like, well, but I mean, also too, like when you think Silver Slugger, do you give any added weight to power? Because I think best hitter, but then I'm like slugger.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, who's the best power hitter, I suppose? Like Stephen Kwan, his game isn't necessarily power. He can hit home runs from time to time, but he does other things that are, the Silver Slugger. You don't really think about like stolen bases and taking the extra base and
like the good test case would be Ichiro. Should he win a Silver Slugger?
he hit a lot of doubles,
He
and
could
he got on.
Wanted to remember that whole
Yes.
every
Yeah.
single time.
He was kind of like Ichiro was sort of like Uncle Rico, but made it to the majors. He's like, yeah, I can hit the ball over the mountains, if I wanted to.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna because
nope.
I don't wanna.
It's like the Joe Kelly has good stuff and all those different
Yeah.
fairy tales,
Yeah.
folk tales.
It sort of becomes a meme after a while. It's like, yeah, did you hear about Joe Kelly's stuff? It's good. It's
Brad
really
Miller
good.
is the fifth best Brad Miller's the best shortstop in the AL or whatever it was. That was a Dave Cameron's creation.
So one thing you're kind of changing my mind about a little bit is maybe there's some subjectivity to this Silver Slugger thing. Are we counting the fast guys and the unconventional non-power hitter types? So who's the best offensive player? That's maybe how I would do it, but I don't know if that's how the voters do it.
You got to put in the work. Weighted runs created plus. I say just go with that. If you hit 70 doubles and 4 home runs, but your weighted runs created plus is higher than the guy who hit 50 homers, I'll go with the guy who hit 70 doubles. I don't care. I think it's just.
I think you can maybe, how much higher is it? If it's if you're 150 versus 148, I think you can look at maybe some nuance. I don't know if you want to look at like total plate appearances and figure out things like that. So I mean, I guess there's some room for.
Well, you could take raw weighted runs created, couldn't you? Then, because that would weight.
I suppose, yeah.
So I mean, you could do total bases. A lot of people be like, "Oh, why not total bases?" I mean, that's the beauty of the game is that as long as you're not. The things that I kind of don't like are Gold Gloves for guys because they hit better. The old Rafael Palmeiro in 1999 story or whatever. And I also don't like best player on a playoff team because the better question for me, like between Judge and Ohtani a couple years ago, was if you put Judge on the Angels, that doesn't make them a contender. Does Ohtani like if you flip the players, what does that do to the teams? Like it doesn't mean I don't care that Ohtani couldn't get the Angels to the playoffs. If you put Aaron Judge on the Angels, they're not getting to the playoffs either. And if you put Ohtani on the Yankees, how much better are they? So I always feel like rather than taking those guys and saying their teams are the reason they succeeded, switch the guys and just tell me what would have happened too. So
I'd like to issue a correction sort of based on related to what we're talking about. You asked earlier, who won the fielding Bible?
Yeah.
At first base was actually Matt Olson. It was not Walker, which is what you said to make me think of that was giving Gold Gloves to
hitters.
People who are better hitters. Actually, Matt Olson wasn't even a better hitter than Christian Walker. So not only was Christian Walker a better defensive player according to the statistics, that's why I assumed without looking up that he'd won. But he had a better hitting season than Olson, even in the context of the stadiums in the league. So I don't get that. I get it. I get it because people know who Matt Olson is more than they do Christian Walker. But Christian Walker had a better year.
Yeah, and I think Olson had one of those weird years with like low batting average, and all he hit was home runs, and so he may have had like a fairly low OPS, low slugging percentage, but his value still was derived from a little bit of defense and some home runs. So
he might have had a better second half. You talked about Willie Castro's really poor second half in our minds, and thinking, why is he even up for this award based on that? Maybe, yeah. I remember people were like, where's Matt Olson? This, in April and May and June, and maybe he had a good second half, and Arizona kind of pooped out at the end, but I don't know. I'm just trying to like find a reason to vote for Olson instead of Walker, and I guess
29 homers and a 790 OPS. So yeah, a lot of homers, not a high OPS. Second half, 896 OPS. So you pretty much nailed it. Let's do this. Let's take our final break, and then when we come back, we got actually kind of a lot to get to. So let's hustle. And let's hustle on over to Game Time. Download that Game Time app, and you can find all the activities going on near your home, whatever marketplace you are in. If you're looking for a sports game, concert, any sort of live event, pro wrestling, that's a big thing in my household, or at least in my family. You can find those too. All these different events. Just go to the Game Time app. It'll check out your home marketplace, and you'll find things going on near you had no idea were happening. And also, I can't say how much I love this enough. Toggle that all-in pricing. Make sure that you know exactly what you're going to be paying from the beginning of the transaction, so you're not getting that bait and switch like the other guys. Say you're getting $20 tickets and they're $35 after those convenience fees that are anything but convenient to you. I say this all the time, I love the panoramic seat views. I like to know that if I am going to Target Center, I know just how much Kleenex I need for my nosebleeds if I'm going to try get Timberwolves tickets right now, because it's a hot ticket. It's a hot team. Even the Lynx, they were packing that place down the stretch there. Certainly a shame they couldn't get the W in the finals, but onward and upward. So again, use Game Time. It's going to get you into whatever venue you want at the best price. They've got a ticket price guarantee where if you find the same ticket elsewhere cheaper, they'll give you 110% of the difference. It's a total no-brainer. Use Game Time to take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The options for Kyle Farmer and Manuel Margot were declined. Probably the least surprising news in the offseason to this point. But with that said, it doesn't really do much for the Twins' budget in the sense that everyone who was already projecting these things was like, who cares? You're not paying Manuel Margot $12 million. You're not even paying the $2 million buyout that's going to be covered by the Rays. Kyle Farmer, 1 foot out the door either way. Who knows? He could come back at a lower rate, I guess, but they're really pretty flush with infielders. Though with a sure hand like him, I don't know. But anyway, nothing too surprising about those, Dave.
No, not really. And it's and like you said, all these payroll predictions and projections kind of take into account those guys not being here already. So they're still, it's not like, all right, now they got money to pay, Santana. They don't necessarily, that's not necessarily true. Other moves are going to happen for those kind of moves to happen. So it's really a tough time right now to be optimistic about at least the 2025 for the Twins, just because, remember they finished in 4th place. That sounds, it was 4th, right? There were 3 teams in the AL Central that made the playoffs: the Guardians, the Royals, and the Tigers. Yeah, they were not in that group. So they're 4th place. They're basically 500. They really pooped out at the end there. And we're talking about not being able to afford Carlos Santana. So How are they going to get better? Maybe it is going to be up to the young players, like Royce Lewis said, the first year, second year, third year guys, rather than anybody else coming in. So, but these, it's I'm trying to stay optimistic. How's that?
Well, we'll take it. Jorge Alcala's option picked up. Not terribly surprising in the sense that it was either that or go to arbitration with him for about the same amount of money. With that said, you could decline it, non-tender him. I don't know why you would do that if you're trying to be reasonably cheap for a bullpen arm that's going to make about $1.5 million next year. What I want to ask you is this: in an ideal world, where does he slot into a bullpen if you are where you want to be? Because I think he's probably no higher than fifth on your bullpen power.
I mean, I have some room there. Here's the thing about Alcala. If he would just stop giving up home runs, he would be super valuable. And I think he is going to be a pressure point for the what kind of offseason the Twins have. Not to give away too many things for future episodes. But that's a guy who can throw 100 miles an hour, who can strike you out, and is really capable of going on great runs. A guy that you can put in theoretically in the back end of a bullpen in high leverage situations. The problem is he just going to go through a period where home run, home run, home run, home run, and just kill you at the end? I think that's a guy you seriously try and sell his upsides to people and say, hey, this could be a guy, this could be a trade candidate, or somebody else in the bullpen could be a trade candidate because they got Alcala, who they can put in late inning games. Relievers are so. Yes, Brandon.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Where it gets tricky is if he's bad, you non-tender him. If he's good, you have to pay him his arbitration raise. Like, maybe it's better to make that someone else's problem, like you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think you should not. That's not a guy you non-tender. I don't think. I think you keep him either to trade somebody else or to trade him. And one of those two things is going to happen without.
Oh, I mean, a year from now, non-tender, not now.
Okay. Well, there you go. A year from now, who knows? Maybe the dough will be rolling in by that time for for Twins TV. So that's
true.
What the poll ads or David St. Peter hopes.
As the boys in the group chat like to say, I'm so sure. That sounds sarcastic at all. 5 outrights. A1 Scott Blewett, Junior Severino, Josh Winder, Randy Dobnak, Daniel Duarte. Duarte likely to have been non-tendered anyway. He's going to probably be one of those 2-year minor league contract kind of guys like I think Brock Stewart was. Dobnak clearing, obviously not a shock there. Of the other 3, Junior Severino, the problem I think is no defensive home. Somebody would probably give him a chance in like a Rule 5 scenario, but Josh Winder, to me, pitched well enough in a small stint. Easy for me to say. Sounds like I'm talking about heart products. Stent. A small stint where I would have been like, maybe I would have given him a look. But I am a little shocked that he cleared. The other 3, though, or other 2, Junior and Blewett, I don't know. I'm not crazy shocked about.
I think, Blewett had some good results.
Yes.
And I think I like, it's nice to have Randy Dobnak around in AAA, and the contract, I think, that he signed sort of guarantees that. So it's these are guys who, I praise the Twins scouting for having them around as extra guys. I think we've said this before. At this time of year, with players like this, everybody's got dudes on the 40-man roster or near the 40-man roster who they kind of like, and they're like, well, is the grass greener over there? Are we really better for bringing in Scott Blewett when we have Scott Blewett at home? So I think,
well,
in a lot of cases, it wouldn't necessarily matter, but I kind of like the results that they got, and I think it is a plus for the Twins that they're bringing these guys back, and they didn't lose them.
Well, did any of these guys elect free agency is a better question, because it felt like nobody else really explained that, where other teams like Junior has not been outrighted, so he probably couldn't. Winder, I think, is the same. Dobby obviously staying. Duarte, I think, is going to be a minor league free agent anyway. Blewett probably a minor league free agent anyway. So maybe that's going to be the case. Either way, though, with Blewett, I wouldn't be shocked if the Twins say, listen, we can't keep you on the 40 over the offseason. We're going to offer you a minor league deal, spring training invite. If you make the team, you make $850,000 or $1 million and a quarter. And
stay with us. You don't have to move.
Right.
You can stay where you are.
If you sign now, you don't have to worry about free agency and slipping through the cracks and then being just a minor league invite to camp. I wouldn't be shocked if we see something where it's like, yeah, he's back with the Twins on a minor league deal.
No, absolutely. I think you've hit the head on the nail, or the opposite. And I think that's good for. I like having Blewett around. It's he's a good depth piece, and the Twins are in a good place as far as identifying those kind of guys on the margins, and they kind of have to be the way the salaries are going and the payroll is going.
No question about it. Well, hey, that is a wrap for our Election Day coverage. Whole lot of Election Day coverage, obviously. But, we will be coming back. We're going to work on a series here of 5 most likely Twins to be traded. Dave, you're coming up first. And
yay!
Is this? This has been Locked On Twins, and we'll see ya, but it's going to be a little later and not tomorrow night. Is that right?
Well,
Dave?
it might be tomorrow night, too.
Okay,
we can say that. I mean, just it doesn't exclude other times.
Yes, I used to be a writer. I still am, but I also used to be. We'll see you, though.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow night. See you.